Mulder, where'd you go?
End of the row.
Mulder, what happened? Are you sure you're all right?
I'm fine. Free.
Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. I'm Chex and I'm joined as ever by Luke Costin. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm not too bad. You're full naming me there. What's going on?
It kind of sort of flowed with the rhythm of my speech there. Like it would have been weird if it went as ever by Luke. Like it just...
yeah. To be fair, yeah, you needed this syllables there, didn't you, to make it flow naturally? So yeah. I understand that. Yeah, that's fair enough.
How are you doing on this fine muggy evening?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad. I'm trying to think of what I've actually done recently now. Like, it's one of those where we've sort of moved week to week recording at the moment, haven't we? So it's like I haven't built up enough things to do. Oh, I've bought a new car. That's what I've done.
Oh, what happened to your last car?
Oh, yeah. Have I not mentioned this?
I don't think you have, no.
Do you know those adverts?
So I'm going to feign. Oh, wait, hang on. Let's before we get into this. Let's start again, but I'm still going to feign not knowing what's going on, okay?
Okay.
Because it's a narrative thing. Like, I'm being the audience in this situation where I'm pretending like, oh, tell me the story. This is how a podcast works, okay?
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Oh, what happened to your car, Luke?
Well, do you know these injury lawyer adverts where they say if you had an accident that wasn't your fault?
Yeah.
We had a car accident that wasn't our fault. Legally, we can say that, by the way. They've accepted full responsibility for insurance purposes. I was dropping Tash off at work one of the mornings, and as we went over a bridge, on the other side was a lorry, a truck, I guess, if in America. It was a big, like, articulated lorry. And it was turning into another road, blocking the road completely, so we couldn't go anywhere. So we stopped just waiting for it to pass. And as we were sat there waiting, all I heard was a screech behind us, and then we got shunted down the road.
So let's put it out there right now. Everyone was safe. No one was hurt. That's the main thing here.
Yeah, no injuries. It was all fine. Like,
apart from the death of your car.
yeah. Apart from our car just absolutely crapping it. But do you know what's really annoying with it though? The car itself didn't look that bad. Like, I was convinced to Tash, I was like, they'll just repair this and then we'll be on our way again.
Yeah.
And then to be told, no, that's going to be written off. I was like, what? But it looks fine.
Especially, I hate it when life just throws something like that at you. And it's always when you're like, oh, we're just getting on top of everything now. And then your dishwasher will break or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's
literally like a week before we'd paid the first deposit for our wedding. So it was like, this is going to be our big expense for the next year. And now we've got to buy a brand new car. I was like, for Christ's sake. So that was fun. But yeah, we're picking that up on Saturday, so that's not too bad. Which sort of scuppers plans on Friday. We're supposed to be going out Friday, which I still am going out, but it means I cannot be drinking. Definitely not too much anyway if I'm driving a new car back the next day.
I remember when we first started this podcast and we was like discussing like whether to bulk record episodes or whether to like record weekly, or how we're gonna do it and how long before an episode comes out can we record. And we tried to get it sort of as close to the release as possible because we wanted to make sure that it was current. It was, it was current affairs. We could talk about our life as well.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we still do a weekly recording session, but the more it's gone on, the less we talk about like our life. We just end up on tangents. Like, I think our life there's nothing, it's not like we're nothing interesting to talk about, but like, I think we just like going off on like random tangents now. And
I mean, that's
just not necessary to record. We could record a whole season in one go, really, couldn't we?
I mean, yeah, probably. But the thing is, we're not recording. So, like, a lot of people do these TV review shows where it's new shows, so you have to wait week to week because they're reviewing it week to week. We could literally, just blast through this entire series in like God knows how long. But we paced ourselves. We started 2018 was it? 2018
Yeah,
we started.
what we'll do is, yeah, imagine that. Imagine we like just buy a cottage out in the middle of Wales, right? So we rent one for like 2 weeks. We watch all the rest of the X-Files, record every single episode, and then just drop the lot.
In one go.
And we're just like, we're done. There you go. There's your episodes. Get through them at your own pace.
Yeah. Build up no fan following whatsoever. Just go, there you go. No one listens.
Oh, we do have a little bit of news to get into. Well, not news, more like a little announcement for the show, but it's to do with a certain somebody, moi, traveling the States in a few weeks. So obviously we need to work the podcast around that. We will got a few ideas. We'll go into that, I think, after the show, maybe.
Yeah, we'll leave it to that. I think for now we probably should talk about this. Talking of, we should get some closure on this issue.
Oh, God. So this week we will be looking at Closure, the 11th episode of season 7. Originally aired February the 13th, 2000, the day before Valentine's Day. Written by Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz and directed by Kim Manners. This is, of course, the second episode of the two-parter following last week's episode. Shall we get into the plot?
Let's do it, yeah.
So, basically, we start out with watching over the scene of these bodies of children that we saw last week being sort of taken up and like dug out. All the while we get this sort of Mulder monologue about how he hopes and wishes that they're going on to a better place.
I want to believe we are unaware of God's eternal recompense and sadness, that we cannot see his truth, that which is born still lives and cannot be buried in the cold earth, but only waits to be born again at God's behest, where in ancient starlight we lay in repose.
Yeah, it was a nice speech from Mulder, actually. Just sort of, it kind of like foreshadows the ending. I found a lot with this. And there's a lot of foreshadowing the ending as well throughout this episode. But yeah, this one sort of, with a lot of episodes, I think when you get this like voiceover at the beginning, it basically is telling you what's going to happen, but you don't know it yet. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's a nice speech over a really grim image, to be honest. But yeah, the more we find out about this, the darker it is as well. This isn't anything supernatural. Well, I mean, there's supernatural parts to it later, but I mean, that's not really part of what's happened here. This is just, a serial murderer. It's terrible.
Yeah, we do see a sort of like them sort of winding down the case, just going through the details. All the while, sort of Mulder's still searching through all the video footage that they found on the property. And like you said, we get a few more details of Ed Trulove, the guy that they caught in the last episode. He was a janitor. He basically got offered the job by chance just because they didn't have anybody else, and he just stuck with it. Scully uses a line which is horrendous, which is just basically something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, but he just couldn't control his sexual desires anymore. What a horrendous line to have to watch on a Thursday afternoon. I was just like, Jesus.
Yeah, they basically...
The insinuation there that, like, basically he is sexually assaulted all these children.
I took it as he gets off on the murder of them.
Possibly, actually,
I don't know if it was like, I don't know if it was like I mean, either way, it's still fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're like, it's just a murder. Don't worry, it's just murdering children. There's nothing wrong with that.
Splitting hairs here, really. I mean. But the way they sort of phrased it seemed like he was getting off on the murder aspect of it, whether it was, I don't know what part of it was, and they don't really go into details of what happens other than that he did do this. At the beginning as well, was there that scene of the ghostly sort of kids as well in their like sort of graves right at the beginning?
Yes. So we did have like this sort of image as Mulder's sort of doing his monologue of the kids getting up and like playing. What do you call that? Ring Around the Roses, was it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Basically all holding hands in a circle, and it was reflecting Mulder's hopes that, like, this is what happened. They went on to a better life.
Basically. I am watching this, though. I couldn't help but think that a director, Kim Manners, has stolen a small child's technique here in shooting this ghost photography.
I can't believe it. He's plagiarized my work. Yeah. Unbelievable. I hadn't even thought about it.
I was like, I bet Chex is like, I can't believe he's done this to me.
Unbelievable. I mean, I can't blame him because it is a stellar way to get a ghost effect. I'm not going to lie. So, game recognizes game. That's all I'm going to say.
That is true. And also, he's got the power of Fox behind him. You don't stand a chance in court.
Yeah. I had a 20-pound little Polaroid camera. An interesting.
Sorry, I was going to say, did you notice on the intro as well? After the intro, the words on that had changed.
Oh no, I never noticed that. I'd always skip the intro. Go on.
Yeah, what I usually do is I skip the intro and then go back 10 seconds. Yeah. And just see. I'm like, is there anything? It said on this one, believe to understand.
Okay. This is interesting, because I think this opens up one of the first talking points that I feel like we're going to have throughout this show, which is this really feels like they've gone, let's close this book.
100%.
We've got this open, loose thread is probably the best way to put it. We've had it for a long time. We want to close the book on that so we can go somewhere in a different direction. Which I'm conflicted on.
I know exactly what you mean.
See, last week we both spoke about how we really enjoyed the episode, and I really enjoyed this episode. I think this is a great two-parter, great episodes of TV, but I can see why people are upset about it as well.
I wrote
this episode particularly.
Yeah, I wrote the exact same thing. I think the execution was fantastic. And we're skipping ahead right to the end.
We are, yeah, but it's hard not to because, like you said, they're presenting this from the start as to what this is. They're already planting the seeds from minute one as to this is the end.
Yeah. But no, I thought the execution was fantastic. The explanation, I'm a bit like, I get it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it. I actually quite like it.
Yeah.
But I also, there is this bit at the back of my head, it's like, well, you can't do that, though.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Because I went off later and read about it. I mean, we might as well talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah, go for it.
The concept of a walk-in. Now, I'd never heard of this before, even though apparently they spoke about it on the X-Files, but apparently it was on that Red Museum episode, which I've ranked as one of my least favourite episodes of the X-Files, so probably why. But yeah, apparently this concept of a walk-in is like when your spirit basically just leaves the earth, can just leave it, and apparently other spirits can take over your body if they want to, which potentially is what happened. We don't know. But in this case, it seemed to be that she just disappeared, completely vanished, her body and everything went. In theory, I'm like, okay, I guess, she suffered in so much distress that she's just said this to Tash after the week, and she's like, sometimes I wish I could just do this, just disappear. Usually when she's had a hard day at work. but yeah, the concept of it, I'm like, okay, I get it. I don't know. There's something about it that feels a bit wishy-washy. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of that where, again, it's just it's conflicting because I think I like it. I like the idea. I like the idea that and it's not even their choice, really, is it? That's the way it's sort of it sounded to me, which was the spirits feel a great deal of trauma in their future, so they stop them going through that by taking their souls or bodies out of this plane and into a separate plane altogether.
Yeah.
And that's great. And then there's the thing about Mulder. Oh, this is all over the place. I do apologise, but there's the thing about Mulder with.
We'll get back to the plot eventually, but
yeah, the problem is we're just going to have to list off the plot because we're talking about it all.
Yeah.
But there's the thing about Mulder, and like, there's a good explanation, and I do believe it's good, of why Mulder is so certain that she was abducted, and it was to do with that sort of like hypnotherapy thing, scene, and we see that Mulder's fabricated a lot of this, and it's explained to us that this was his desire over the years since to find her alive, that he sort of fabricated a lot of the details, and a lot of the details are just very generic abduction details that like he's either seen on TV or he's researched, and he's basically made it real in his own head since. Makes sense, completely get it. But also, he's based a lot of his investigations on that work.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's
like it does feel a little unsatisfying to go, oh, and then luckily he ended up in an alien profession, so it all worked out in the end. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it does feel a bit weird.
And it's not like they've completely said all of the stuff that's happened before is like all crap. Like, you know what I mean? Like they sort of say that she's been experimented on and all this stuff. So the clone Samantha that we saw ages ago, that can all still be a thing and real, and because of these. But it's more, she's been experimented on by the government, not abducted by aliens and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we should probably get back to the plot and go through these concepts as we go. But yeah.
So, one thing I wanted to quickly mention before we carried on after the intro was Scully makes it perfectly evident that we're not going to be talking about Ed Trulove in this episode. They write him out of the plot straight away. He was simply a means to get to this episode because they say he admitted to all the killings of all the kids, and he was a pervert, and he was a horrific human being, but he categorically denies touching Amber LaPierre.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically, that's the last we hear of him. We don't hear anything else. And Mulder looking through the tapes and doesn't find Samantha on the tapes either. So that's what he's obviously looking for. But it's not long before we do progress with the actual plot when the detectives both meet Harold Pillar, who is a psychic, as he introduces himself, or I don't know what the correct term is, like a medium maybe, or someone who can sense spirits.
Yeah, they called him like a psychic detective, or no, what did they call him? They gave him a name, like psychic police or something like that. I mean,
yeah, you get these a lot. Like these are actually real life, where especially to do with kids, sadly. And I say sadly because I'm sure they provide comfort for a lot of people, but a lot of it is just people trying to get in on the story and getting a bit of attention. That's 90% of the that industry. But you do, every time there's a child abduction, like I listened to a podcast about this, and like you wouldn't believe, like the 90% of the phone calls that you get are from people believing they've seen the spirit of the child, and it's just like that's not helping anybody in that situation. Right there, you not only you clogging up the lines and giving the police thousands more minutes to sift through, but also you're actually causing harm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's it's something that you hear about and you think, who would do this? But it happens enough that, I guess. Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are people out there who, I mean, I personally, we've already discussed this millions times, I'm a skeptic, I don't believe anything like that. But I'm sure there are people out there who genuinely are trying to help, but then there's just a lot of people that aren't, and it's sad. But obviously in this case, that is kind of discussed as well. Harold Pillar immediately pisses both of them off. He's very vague, and his references are from like Afghanistan and like a mudslide in wherever, Argentina or something like that. There's a lot of different places. And most of his references come from the children in particular, and them going missing, their bodies never being found, and him saying that's because they've moved on to this astral plane. That's what, because they've what's just they call it, a walkout, to walk on,
walk-ins they call them.
Which Scully's very rightfully says, oh, so your references are all the things that can't be proved. That's basically it. But he does mention walk-ins to the Starlight, which is what Mulder heard from the mother in prison in the last episode, which triggers him to go, let's give this guy a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, it's Mulder through and through. He's always willing to see
but even
if there's
before,
a chance.
To be fair to Mulder, though, even before that, he was willing to write him off as well. I don't think he cared about him until he heard that phrase Starlight, and that's when you saw his eyes twinkle.
Yeah.
Like stars themselves.
Oh.
Very beautiful.
I really like Scully in this scene because you can really tell that she just cares for Mulder. Like, she is just trying to protect him from this charlatan, basically, who's just trying to lead him up the garden path. And I mean, we do find out later on that he does have some credentials, I guess. Like,
I came away from this personally thinking that he was pretty straight. Like, he wasn't trying to hurt anybody, but he does keep things from Mulder.
Which, he is helpful by the end, but I think initially you have to see it from Scully's point of view of this guy's just preying on your vulnerability, basically, at this moment. Mm-hmm. And yes, Scully's just trying to look out for Mulder. And to be fair, Mulder's kind of dismissive of Scully for a bit in this, like, at least towards, like, sort of the beginning and the middle. Like, they come together towards the end, but initially they butt heads on this because Scully is just trying to look out for him, but Mulder is a bit blinded by this case. Rightfully so in the end, but yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm probably going to skip through a lot of this plot because I feel like really it's the sort of the bigger overarching sort of ideas from this story that we want to talk about rather than the actual sort of plot details. And that being one of them. So I'll skip to that bit right now, pretty much. Mulder ends up going with Pillar and hearing about what he can do. And he explains exactly what we've said before about the walk-ins. Meanwhile, Scully is going to sort of try and find a bit more evidence, and she goes back to Mulder's house. To which she finds a sheet of paper. And she also goes to see a hypnotherapist as well, which Mulder was put to. Great shot of him and his curtain hair. I loved his hair.
Yeah. There's some interesting production notes on that specific scene in general. But yeah, it's
I like the fact that, like, they've obviously gone for, like, when at the start he had that sort of floppy hair like season 1, but like it looks nothing like season 1 hair.
No, not at all. No, it's an attempt. It's an attempt. Yeah, because he's gone a lot more like buzz cut kind of hair at the moment, isn't he? So there was something as well. I don't remember where it was exactly, but I remember I wrote a note about it. It was where they were sat in the hotel room. Actually, I think it's a scene coming up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We've got that.
I'll wait to get to that.
So we've already spoke about a lot of this, but obviously the hypnotherapist turns around, like we said earlier, and says that he doesn't really believe what Mulder said in the hypnotherapy session. He believes that his mind has concocted this this story of alien abduction to deal with it, and it's given him purpose to sort of search for Samantha. But he advises Scully not to drag this up again because it's only going to hurt Mulder. And then when she goes to Mulder's house, she finds a sheet of paper that was burnt in the bin that was the original report from one of the reports she had, which was basically a file asking for the search for Samantha to be stopped, written by Cigarette Smoking Man.
Yeah, pretty sloppy from Cigarette Smoking Man here that he left his
the one corner with his signature.
Yeah, I'll burn all of it, apart from my name. Ties me straight to.
Was this Cigarette Smoking Man or was this Mulder?
Good question. I wonder if we'll ever get that explained.
No. One gripe I feel like I've got with X-Files as a whole. I think it's so ridiculous that they don't know his name. I am fine with all of us not knowing his name. I'm fine with him being called Cigarette Smoking Man. I think it's so stupid when they all go, "Oh, cigarette smoke." When they call him Cigarette Smoking Man, I think it's farcical.
It's the calling them.
He works for the FBI, or at least enough so that he's walking around the offices. You can't tell me nobody knows his name, and even if they didn't, like, the new guy in the office doesn't go, "Wait, You call him cigarette smoking man. Like, no one questions it. It's farcical.
What's his actual, like, his initials now? It's CG something S Spender.
CGBS.
CGBS Spender.
I think I'm not sure about the G, but yeah, I
I
know
think
the
it was
last
a
two are BS.
Right, cigarette. The trouble is, I don't want to Google it.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, I get the feeling that, like, I don't know, there'll be like a season 11 thing where he goes, actually, my name, what did we say it was?
Can't remember. I was just thinking the same
Gary
thing.
Bryan Smith. Or something.
Gary Bryan Smith.
Yeah, I really wish I could remember the conversations that we had, but I do remember we gave him his names. And we said it's silly.
We did.
Yeah, I like when we recycle jokes. It's good, isn't it?
It is good. It is. There's an interesting scene that I wanted to talk about, which you've kind of mentioned already. When Scully phones Mulder, let's get to this bit first, actually. Mulder, like you said, was in a hotel room with Pillar, and Pillar says that his mom's come to give him a message. And we see the ghostly version of Mulder in the background talking to Mulder. And Pillar says, well, I couldn't hear her. She's left. I didn't know what she said. But Mulder had inadvertently written down what was it, April Air Force Base or April Base, something like that?
Yeah, it was like April Base, I think it just said, yeah.
A location they need to check out, basically.
Yeah.
And he doesn't remember doing it. So this is proof that he is legit, basically, and that his mom worked through Mulder to tell them where to go next. So they head there. But on the way there, Scully phones them. And like you said, Mulder is so flippant. She tells him that I believe you, cigarette smoking man, he's been involved, it's a conspiracy, which usually would like get Mulder riled up, but it doesn't this time. And I want to know your thoughts on it.
That I think that Scully would get riled up, do you mean like?
No, well, bit of both really. I mean, I didn't really have a problem with Scully.
Because
Mulder's reaction to it was more weird.
Yeah, so it's one of those where I can understand why Mulder is so harsh towards Scully. I can completely understand it, and to be honest, I think she understands it. Like, he's essentially grieving at this point still, like because it's all been brought back up again. This is his cycle of grief just happening all over again. So yeah, it's harsh and it's mean, but people do these things like when they're in grief or when they're like sort of hurting like this. And I don't think there's any malice to it. It's literally just him snapping because he's like, I finally have a lead and you're poo-pooing it, basically. You know what I mean? Like you're taking it away from me. So I didn't look too unfavorably at Mulder for it, I guess. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it did. It was the conspiracy aspect of it for me that I just felt it's wild that Mulder doesn't give him like a care for it, at least, because it's proof of what he's thought all along. But on the flip side, as he says, he knows that he's corrupt. He knows he's not giving him any truth, and this is why he's taking matters into his own hands and investigating it himself.
Yeah, I guess literally with cigarette smoking man, he's constantly giving him mixed information. Didn't he invent like an entire? Well, I mean, we had that episode recently where in his like dream world he was like being sort of completely fed lies by him. So I wonder if this is still fresh in his memory. If you know what I mean, like possibly,
yeah. It's tough to say, but and again, Mulder and Scully are back to normal in like 5 minutes, so it doesn't last long. But I thought this was an interesting scene as well.
Yeah, I had some worries right at the beginning of this scene because we see them sat in the hotel room in the beginning, and Mulder's watching Planet of the Apes, and there's a part where like Charlton Heston's like being told by one of the titular apes that don't go
just
looking.
Laugh at the word titular.
No, I was laughing.
Don't lie. You laughed at the word titular.
No, I was laughing because like I called the apes titular from Planet of the Apes. I thought that was a funny joke.
Didn't look that way to me.
Well, that's your gutted brain.
I want everyone to listen back to the last 30 seconds and tell me whether we put emphasis on the word tit in the titular.
Why do you do this to me?
You do this to yourself?
I did. I've done this to yourself. No. Anyway, right. Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So there's the scene where Charlton Heston's like riding away, and like the ape is basically saying, "Don't go looking for this. You're not gonna like what you find." And that was when I was like, "Uh-oh, is this like foreshadowing like something terrible at the end?" And I mean, it didn't end up like that. So thankfully, it was sort of a bit of a red herring. But the fact that they had that clipping specifically, I was like, "This doesn't feel good." I was a bit worried.
I mean, again, we'll sort of race through this. They get to this airbase, get told to turn around, but after a little bit of back and forth of Mulder sort of losing faith in Pillar and then coming back round to him again, they eventually return and investigate the base because Pillar says he can sense Samantha was there. Meanwhile, Scully, while returning home from an investigation after being told not to bother Mulder anymore, returns home to cigarette smoking man in the corner of the room. Basically, he's very blasé. I don't know why he's come round to tell her this. I don't know what the purpose of his visit is.
I have a theory.
Oh, go on. Well, okay, let me explain what happened. He comes round. He tells her that it was him that called off the search for Samantha, and when she asked why, he said it's because he knew she was already dead. Scully calls him a liar, and basically it's a bit of back and forth, but like he just turns up to basically say, yeah, it was me, you were right, I did this because I knew she was dead.
He makes a good point as well in this scene. Cigarette Smoking Man does that. Basically, he's done all this to get Mulder to do what he does. Basically, and he's basically saying that without this catalyst, Mulder would have nothing, and to take it away takes his crusade away from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
true.
I think without this, Mulder would never be in the situation he's in now, and like investigating the X-Files and stuff like that. So it kind of is like he has built him. Like if Cigarette Smoking Man's involved in all of this, he has essentially created Mulder and pushed him down the path that he needed him to be.
But again, don't get me wrong, I don't want this to sound like I'm sort of naysaying, because I'm not. I really enjoyed this episode. But if that's the case, it's a big risk to take, isn't it? That you're hoping that this kid blames it on the aliens. Like, what's the end game here?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do have a theory with this though of why he's come back and he's telling you all this.
Go on.
So the first thing that Scully says to him is, "You look really ill," and he's like, "Oh, I've just had an operation," and they don't explain what that is.
No, they don't.
So I remember when we first started getting into this and we were taking like scripts and stuff like that, there was mention where he was called Cancer Man. I think he's dying. And they
I assumed he was called Cancer Man because of
the smoking. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. But I think it's, I think eventually this now has caught up with him. And yeah, when he said, "Oh, I've had an operation," I think that, yeah, he's now like dying of cancer or something like that. And he's basically thinking, well, I might as well. Like the syndicate's gone, I'm dying, I might as well.
What's stopping me?
What's stopping me? Yeah, that's my theory on this. We'll see, but I don't know.
Wow. Okay, interesting. I hadn't thought about that, to be honest, but it's possible.
It was because of how, like, out of the blue, she just said, "You look ill." You know what I mean? It's like,
that was weird.
It
wasn't explained.
He didn't look any different, really. I mean, it was in the dark, so like it's hard to tell. But yeah, it was how she just said it out of nowhere, and I'm like, that's planting something for the future. So that's my guess anyway. I think he's dying. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, I suppose we'll know. Hopefully, at the end of the season. Yeah. Mulder, we're going back to Mulder. He breaks into this airbase and finds accommodation on the site. And he finds the proof that he was looking for in the form of a handprint with Samantha's name next to it. And his tone changes. He gets frustrated and angry because he realizes that she was taken, just not by the aliens, as the camera pans out to another handprint next to it with Jeffrey's name. This was a shock.
Yeah. So we basically
Jeffrey's
get this...
Fender, by the way, just to make it very clear.
Yeah. If you've not been watching it so far, you just jumped in at this episode.
Yeah, wild. I don't know how you keep it up.
But yeah, it is a shock that we see this sort of like tying together that he's essentially, and it also paints a picture of like what did Cigarette Smoking Man do to Jeffrey as well? Like, has he been experimenting on him? What's, you know what I mean? Like, if he's done this with Mulder's sister, what's stopping him from doing it to anybody else on this base? Yeah,
especially later on when we find the diary, and Samantha does mention that she feels like her memories have been toyed with. So it could potentially, but we'll never know that because Spender's dead. It's not like, unless we get flashbacks, he never mentioned anything.
I genuinely had forgot he died for a second.
Well, I suppose we don't know he died. We heard the gunshot.
Gunshot off screen, wasn't it?
Yeah. I assume he's dead, though. I can't imagine, like, why would he come back at this point? Where has he been?
Any other series, I'd say, he got shot off screen, he's not dead. But X-Files has killed a lot of people off screen. So, what's her name? Mulder's mom died off screen. We lost what's her name? His love interest. What's her name now? Diana?
Fowley.
Is it? Fowley, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Fowley.
Oh, sorry to bring it up for you. Yeah.
Rest in peace. The one that got away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all have him. It's all right, you can settle with Scully.
Oh, God. You'd like to wind people up, didn't you?
Oh, I love Fowley. I love her. That was who he was meant to be with. Anyway, let's get on with this episode. It moves pretty quickly from here. So yeah, we get this evidence that they lived with the cigarette smoking man. And Scully, meanwhile, finds a police report, basically of Samantha being in a hospital in that area. Okay, we say Samantha, a girl matching her description, was in that hospital in that area, and it's basically the only lead from like when it was there. There was a seance as well, which I forgot to mention. Scully comes over for a seance. I thought this was really good, actually. I don't know why. I found this oddly powerful, and I can't really explain why. Scully, Pillar, and Mulder all hold hands, and they're mocking it a little bit, but then they just sort of stay silent, and all these ghosts come up from the woodwork of people we don't know, people that we have no idea who they are. And then a boy turns up and leads Mulder by the hand to where the diary is.
I quite like this sort of this is where because we always mention how we don't like ghost stories typically, or very rarely do anyway. But I think this is when it's done right, where it's sort of treated with this. They're not in. It sounds weird saying this. They're not integral to the plot, if you know what I mean. They're sort of there to just be this mystical elephant, this mystical element.
I don't like ghost stories, but I love mystical elephant stories.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you'd watch a story about a mystical elephant.
This is the
Dumbo,
thing.
it's Dumbo, isn't it? He was a mystical elephant.
This is the thing. I don't mind ghost stories. It's like the haunted house, sort of like goes boo in the night ghost stories. This of like what remains after we leave, I've got no problem with. And I thought this was, again, considering we don't know anybody in this scene, I thought this was oddly powerful of like these people all coming and sort of standing there with them in their moment of silence. Yeah,
I mean, it has this like the entire episode has this kind of like sentimentality to it, which I quite liked. I've seen online because this was when I was looking at IMDb afterwards. People weren't fans of that, and like they thought it was not X-Files, like quote unquote. But I quite like this in this episode because this is a sentimental episode. It's finally finding out what's happened to one of the main characters. like families, you know what I mean? That's been a
Yeah.
long running thing. It needed this sentimentality, and like it kind of felt like all these spirits around here are here to witness this moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it did, yeah.
Again, I don't really believe in ghosts, but like if I did, the way I'd sort of see it is they kind of are a bit bored. You know what I mean? Like
Taking
and so
all the
like
sentimentality out of it. They're just, God,
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of bored ghosts. This is the most exciting thing that's happened for hundreds of years.
But like they kind of see this sort of thing, and it's like this thing that they can witness, you know what I mean, and be part of, you know what I mean. So I kind of liked it for that reason, that you have all these like sort of bystanders for this moment of like this revelation. It's kind of like, sounds silly saying this, I guess, but it's kind of like a metaphor for the audience, you know what I mean? You're all sat around watching this event happen, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go too much into that sort of that metaphor, but you know, there's one there. There's one there.
Well, I think that also they wanted to show that like it wasn't just meaningful people that show up to them, because then that would kind of destroy the image that we get later on in the episode. Like it's just the last bit now, and we can sort of talk about the wider themes of this episode. They end up going to the hospital and talking to the nurse that checked Samantha in, because they note that she was never checked out of that hospital. And the nurse says the same thing as the couple in the last episode, where she had a vision of the child's death before she disappeared, which Pillar described earlier on, that like that's what he thought of, like the suffering. That's why they thought the spirit was taking them away to stop this death from happening.
Yeah.
And so the nurse goes on to describe cigarette smoking man turning up at the hospital, just basically having a cold look in his eyes, coming with a team of people to take Samantha away again, because she'd ran away. But before he could take her, she had disappeared from a locked room into thin air, and that's where we sort of get the idea that she a walk-in happened and the spirits took her away.
Yeah,
which is completely opposed to what we've been led to believe the last 7 seasons.
Yeah, it is. It's a very different theory, and like we mentioned earlier, it's a hard one to get your head around because it's such a weird concept. Like I never heard of it before. Like you obviously hear about ghosts and stuff like this, and even alien abductions. You've heard about them. I'd never heard of a walk-in. To be fair, and
no,
it's I think initially when I heard it, I was like, oh, she just disappeared. Like, and it's like. It's just a strange theory. The more I read about it, the more I'm like, okay, like, obviously I don't believe that those things happen, but for this episode, I can believe it that they've planted the idea from other people. It's not like they've just said out of nowhere, "Oh, she just disappeared." Like these other, the other families have had this happen, so I can believe it. It's got enough like sort of weight to it. It's just a weird concept to wrap your head around, and because of that, it feels a little unfulfilling, I guess. But I'll preface this by saying I liked this episode and I liked the ending. I liked all of it around it.
Well, let's get to, before we get into the bigger pictures, let's get to the ending here.
Yeah.
Later on, Mulder does see that little boy again, the ghostly corporal form of this little boy, and who leads him through the forest, and Mulder kind of becomes ghostly himself. And as he walks through the forest, all these children are playing, who we assume are the children that was... I'm actually not sure. Maybe the children that have gone missing over the years.
Yeah, I don't know if you actually see Amber Lynn there. I'm not sure.
I didn't notice, but maybe you did. Maybe she's in the background somewhere. But the focus is taken by Samantha showing up, running to Mulder, giving him a big hug, and he recognises her instantly.
Yeah.
And then as he we get this moment between them. There's a really nice song. I don't know what the song was in the background, but like a really nice soundtrack to it. Felt very conclusion-y, if that's a word. It felt like the end of something.
Almost like you got closure.
Almost like he got closure, exactly. And then he turns back around and walks back towards Scully and basically admits to Scully that it's over, that she's... he says to Pillar first that Pillar's son instead. I forgot to mention Pillar's son was meant missing as well, but
Yeah, there was
it's
another
fine,
thing.
we breezed past that.
Yeah, there was another thing that they mentioned about him that apparently he'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia
Yeah,
as well.
there was. Which again, it was hard. It was a weird one because it was like there's a twist which we're going to completely eradicate 10 seconds later.
Yeah,
like
okay.
it made no difference to the plot.
Also, my point on this was I wrote down, if you actually could see ghosts and you told people, they would say you had schizophrenia.
Everyone would say you're schizophrenia. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so it's kind of one of those where it's like, yeah, he might be diagnosed with that, but in this world, he might actually just see ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. Scully asks Mulder if he's all right, and he says that he is, and that he's now free.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the word we go off of. Like, basically, where it's alluded to that he is past. He's got closure on his system, and he's past that now.
Yeah, he's accepted it basically.
I think this is the part that, and again, I love this episode. I think this is a great two-parter. I do struggle with this part in the sense of, okay, so it's like Mulder dedicated his entire life to figure out the mystery of his sister, and then he gets told, no, it's not this mystery, it's that mystery, and instead of going, okay, I'll investigate this, Mulder goes, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And it's like, well, do you not want to know how or why? Or maybe it's because that she's in peace?
Maybe,
I
I assumed it was the latter, that, she's at peace now, so he's just happy that she's not suffering, that, he kind of knows what has happened. Again, it's this weird concept of it, that it's this, just they disappeared, and like he's accepted that. I will say though that I think while the explanation and everything is, I'm not 100% sold on that. I think emotionally how they got there and how they've done this entire episode was perfect. Like, I actually teared up at the end, like with the reunion and everything, like the way it was portrayed.
We're on the exact same wavelength. Yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
Genuinely was like a massive moment for the series, and ultimately, even though it's not the outcome I would have hoped, like for the mystery, it has wrapped it up like definitively. It's told you this is what happened, whether you like it or not, I guess, which I'm fine with. If that's like, I mean, they thought that this was going to be the last series, so I'm happy with those answers to a degree. It's one of those where it's like, as I said, I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. I'm kind of like, okay, like I get it, but that's what I'm sort of left with.
My only counterpoint to that would be, there was definitely a feeling throughout this episode of, okay, we've decided to solve this mystery and be done with it. We don't want to talk about it again. It felt very forced, the closure of it.
Yeah.
And I think it was done in a good way, but like also I do understand where it's like, you've built up seven seasons of building up to this reveal, and then the last minute, the last two episodes, you pull the rug from under us and change it up. And that's not saying it's a bad way to end it. It's just saying it feels almost undeserved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Whilst watching this at the end, I was like, I can understand people not liking it. I personally don't mind it, but I can very much understand people not liking the conclusion to the story. And I've read reviews online that are very strongly worded in their dislike for it.
I can, you know what? I can see that because it reminded me a little bit of. I'm going to put a spoiler warning here. It reminded me a little bit of the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And spoiler warning: if you've not seen Game of Thrones and you are planning to and you want to watch it, I would definitely recommend skipping forward a couple of minutes because I'm definitely going to spoil a big, thick plot point. But we find out that the whole season, the whole show, 6 seasons, have been leading up to Jon Snow being a Targaryen, not being a bastard. And then when it turns out that he's the rightful heir of the throne, we find that out in the last couple of episodes, and it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what it felt like, because it felt like, that's great, you've given us an ending, but like, why have we ended it? I don't know. And
Yeah.
again, I'm kind of just playing devil's advocate here because I did still really enjoy this episode and I thought it was well done.
Yeah, it's that thing of having I feel like feel is better than explanation some of the time. Like you can kind of an explanation you can kind of hand wave away to a degree, as long as it feels right. Whereas if the explanation, kind of with Game of Thrones, the explanation is completely bang on, but it kind of it just felt a bit empty.
Emotional weight.
Yeah, there was no, there was just emptiness to it at the end.
Yeah, you are right. It is actually it's they're both similar, but for opposite reasons. Yeah, you spot on there.
So I think. Yeah, it comes a way where it's like, Mulder finally got his closure. I don't know why. I don't know how, but he finally got his closure.
Yeah. That sounds like a really good place to end it. What's your final thoughts on let's say the 2 episodes overall?
Overall, I really like both of them. Yeah, I came away from it and I wasn't like there's parts that I can pick apart, but I mean ultimately I enjoyed both episodes. Probably the first one more, but I think the closing scene of the last one definitely made it all worthwhile in the end.
Yeah, I very much agree. I don't want to rehash things that we've already said because I feel like we've gone through it all. The only other thing I'd like to point out is I think this is one of the best mythology arcs for a long, long time. I said I thought it could potentially be that last episode. This confirmed it for me. I really enjoyed getting back to a simple mythology story where you could follow it from start to finish, and it was just and it changed. Things changed, and it wasn't just like mystery piled upon mystery piled upon mystery. It was, this has happened now, and here's the conclusion to it. And I felt like it really pushed the story forward. And for that reason, again, with everything else, really enjoyed it.
Luke's production notes.
While the idea to close the Samantha story arc received mixed reactions from various production and crew members, many realised that the time had come for the show to answer one of its biggest questions. Spotnet's explained that I think series star David Duchovny grew. I think that's what they call it, where paraphrasing in it, where they just add stuff to it. I imagine he said David. I think David grew tired of playing the man who is missing his sister. I told him, this is going to be the last time you're going to have to play that part. Paul Radwin noted that it had been 7 years. I don't think any of us are going to miss Samantha Mulder. That device and motivation were very strong in the early years of the show, but as the years have gone by, the speculation kind of melted away. There you go.
It's harsh.
Yeah. Get rid. They don't care about this story. Do you know what though? Saying that, I've cared less and less about Samantha as the time has gone on. So I do understand that, you know what I mean? Not like cared less, but
but there is an argument to say, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but there is an argument to say that that's on them. They created that mystery.
Yeah.
You can't just go, we're going to keep it a mystery until people stop caring, and then we'll just give a wishy-washy ending. I don't think that's what they did, but like if that was their intention of just like, let's just do anything just to get rid of it because we don't need it anymore. You've got to, if you're gonna have that mystery as a crucial point to your plot, you've got to know a way to pay that off.
Yeah. I think you should always have the end goal in mind. Whether this was always the end goal and they just like flim-flam between it.
I doubt this was
the end goal. This feels like we've got to come up with an ending, so this is what we've got for it.
For sure.
But anyway. Closure continued where the previous episode Simon's 8 left off, but branched off into different territory. Carter later explained that emotionally, it was very heavy stuff for everybody, but necessarily so. These episodes involved 2 very personal cases, the search for a serial killer and the search for Mulder's sister. It's, I guess, as we've sort of mentioned, a lot of heavy emotional stuff in these episodes. Mark Shapiro, in his book All Things, The Official Guide to the X-Files, noted, and in addition to bringing an end to the Samantha story arc, the episode was very much a Smoking Man episode, in that it was explored his involvement in Samantha's abduction, and revealed to the audience that he was ill.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they don't go into detail on what illness it is, other than Mulder, Scully saying that he was ill.
I didn't. You know what? I honestly didn't. I didn't pick up on the fact that that was like meant to be like a big plot point. It was a weird way to introduce a plot point.
That's the thing, because it was so out of the blue to just say it. It kind of felt like, well, why are they saying that?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
That usually with these kind of things, yeah, if it seems random, it's because they're trying to insert a new story.
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
It's is it Chekhov's gun?
Yeah.
You know, if you're introducing it, you got to use it.
You got to use it at some point, yeah. The tagline was changed from "The truth is out there to believe to understand." So yeah, I guess the meaning of that is that he finally understands and finally gets his closure, I guess.
Yeah. The search is over. You know, you don't need to find the truth on that subject anymore.
Manners argued that closure was one of the first episodes in which the production staff were able to shoot in Los Angeles with the sun out. Previous to this episode, the show's production staff was struggling with the fact that they weren't in Vancouver anymore, and that our show had suddenly become very bright and cheery. To amend this, Bill Rowe, director of photography, used tree branches and C-stands to block out the sunlight.
Okay.
So
I can't say I've noticed that this show's got brighter, to be honest with you.
I've not either. Like, everyone keeps talking about it, and I'm just like, I can't say. Maybe if we're specifically looking for it, but I guess we're taking notes on like what's happening and the themes and stuff. Maybe if we rewatch it and just look for the lighting,
yeah, maybe.
We'll notice it. The first scene with the walk-ins rising from their graves, shot in Griffin Park above the playground, was tricky, according to director Kim Manners, as he felt uncomfortable telling the children to rise out of their graves, feeling it could psychologically hurt them. Instead, he had the crew call the holes in the ground forts.
So, okay. Yeah, that is a bit of an awkward one. I can't imagine the kids really understood what was going on, though, to be honest.
Just messing about in it when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe we're not giving kids enough credit to have this sort of emotional depth, but yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. The scenes taking place in April Air Base were shot in San Bernardino in California at a closed airfield, the former Norton Air Force Base. On the air base was a large derelict complex of over 400 buildings, many of them houses, that had been constructed and used by the US military. According to Manners, the entire area was an eerie ghost town, as many of the houses were still full of old abandoned furniture.
It reminds me a little bit of, I don't know whether they're actually... I genuinely don't even know whether this is an actual thing, whether you could visit these, but remember the nuclear towns? Like the little towns they built for, like, nuke testing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I know they were a thing. I don't know whether they're still about. I know, I want to say it's the Hills of Eyes.
Yeah,
the old horror film was based in one of those things.
Yeah, and there's like irradiated mutants that are living there.
Something like that. Again, I don't know whether you can find them out and about, but same sort of vibe. The sort of I think it's always the imagining the life. It's a bit like Chernobyl as well. It's like a life just cut short, and it's like imagining the life that was there.
Well, we know one of them was destroyed by Indiana Jones, so
That's
you're not
true.
going to be able to see that one. During the filming, David Duchovny decided to act out the reunion scene in a manner contrary to what the script called for. Manners later said, in the script, it called for his sister to run up and hug him, and Mulder was to start crying. David didn't want to cry. I said, David, you're finally realizing your sister is in fact dead. He said, just watch what I do, trust me. And he held that little girl actress. There was a beatific smile on his face that was absolutely astounding. Manners was very happy with the change and included it in the final cut of the episode.
Best band. Like, I think you put it best. It was one of the best scenes of the two-parter, for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of standout scenes of the X-Files, to be fair.
Of the show, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's just this like sort of end to something, and it's like I said, it's portrayed really well. The soundtrack's really good, which is a note about that at the end, so you can listen to this song. Cool. We'll get to it. But yeah, it has this like sort of eeriness and this like sort of it feels like you're in like another world. Like I know we both played D&D and stuff. It's this concept of like going to another plane of existence or something like that, where everything's a bit like spectral. Like I'm trying to think of like another, like it's not fully there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like that kind of thing.
Sure.
But it had this nice kind of feel to it. To create the scene featuring the ghosts of the dead children interacting with the characters, you could probably tell us about this one. Various layers of film had to be overlaid onto each other. The scenes were laborious and took many passes to complete. After the shots had been secured, the film of the ghosts had to be made slightly transparent. These scenes were actually shot in daytime, and a specialized day-for-night photography in which the subjects are illuminated with bright lights and the sky was completely avoided was used to make the scene look as if it had been filmed at night. These scenes were also filmed at 48 frames a second, twice. I did notice this actually did look a bit weird, like how it moved compared to everything else. It was shot at 48 frames a second, twice that of the show's normal filming speed.
Listen, if you're not experienced in this type of filmmaking, I can understand how you'd find it difficult. It took me days of practice, like days and probably about a day of practice to really nail this. But you know what? That's why I always like advocate, like, don't be ashamed to ask for help. Like I would have helped. Just get in touch if you need any more ghosts in the future. Let me know. I can find that camera out. I can sort it out.
Imagine if that's how you got your call up to shooting on the X-Files. You're like, have you seen my pictures? I can
Look, there's me. There's the farm we went to. This is a cow we met, and if you look closely, there's a ghost version of me stood next to it.
Can you do it in video? No.
Yeah, yes, half the cow does look like a ghost because the cow moved, okay, but what can we do about that?
Yeah, there's not a lot I can do. Rebecca Tulin, who I think is the actress who plays Samantha Mulder, travelled to Los Angeles from Vancouver specifically for the episode and Sign on Sight to create her ghostly apparition. The production staff filmed Tulin and superimposed the image over a shot of Duchovny. Manners played the part of... Oh, okay, this is a separate one. So yeah, that's about Rebecca Tulin. Yeah, she was flown in to do this specifically. But I mean, to be honest, that's just actors, isn't it? It's just flown in. Right, now this one's the interesting one. Kim Manners played the part of the hypnotist in the video that Scully watches. And with the director turned actor later noting, I only act when you can't see my face. Manners was also critical of Duchovny's wig used in the scene, which had been added to make the footage seem older. He sardonically noted that this is not one of the episodes that Sherry Medcalf, the show's makeup director, won an Emmy for.
That's great.
So there you go. That's what his voice sounds like. I remember ages ago, in probably like our third series, I had a crack at what Kim Manners probably sounded like. It's made up a voice. But yeah, that's what he sounds like. He sounds like the psychologist in that video.
Okay, interesting.
There you go, live and learn. And then finally, just a bit about the music. Composer Mark Snow described his score as possessing a sense of biblical fervor and religiosity. I didn't know it was a word.
Mm-hmm.
And elegy. A feeling about it that was so poignant and touching to me. And then My Weakness, a song by Moby from his 1999 album Play, is used in this episode. First when the FBI discovers the mass grave, and finally at the end when Mulder encounters his sister's spirit. Carter never told Snow about the decision to use somebody else's music, although Snow had since said his reaction to the use of the song was very positive and the song was a perfect fit. So there you go, if you want to listen to that song. Moby.
I really enjoyed that song, to be fair. I had no idea it was a Moby song, but yeah, I thought it worked perfectly.
To be honest, I couldn't tell you a Moby song. I know the name.
Same.
I literally, never heard of his songs, but there you go. Check out the Mobster. You'll.
It stinks.
Welcome to the Crit X-Files.
What did you think of this episode?
I'm going to give... pardon me. I think I'm going to give the 2 episodes as a whole, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think I gave the last episode an 8.5, and this neither took away nor sort of elevated and levitated it. What's that? Elevated it, should I say.
I mean, levitating is going up, so yeah.
Yeah, I think 8.5 is a good solid score for this. Really enjoyed it.
So the last one I gave an 8. This one I didn't enjoy as much, apart from scenes. You know what I mean? Like there were certain scenes that I really enjoyed, but as a whole, I didn't think this episode was as good as the first one. I only docked it a tiny bit. I gave it a 7.5, which I think if the explanation for why Samantha disappeared was stronger, I think this would be like an 8.5 and 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think that definitely did distract from it. But I had to give it such a strong score, which I think a 7.5 is a strong score, really, based on the scenes alone that were the powerful scenes. So yeah, I a 7.5 sounds low. I really did enjoy this episode, and I'll definitely remember the final scene from it. Over many other episodes that we'd seen. So
for sure.
And the rest of the internet, IMDb anyway, gave it an 8.1 from 3,216 votes. So, a fairly strong score, I'd say, an 8.1.
Yeah. So what's this like? Because you said that you read some like criticism about it.
Yeah, so I mean, this was on IMDb as well. I was having a look because there's sometimes where like, depending on what I think of an episode, I try and look at like both sides. So there's some people that gave it 10 out of 10s. Obviously, there's going to be people who love this, but there was some that were giving it like 4s and 3s. I usually ignore ones that are just a 1 because I think whenever you give it a 1, you're just pissed off. You know, you're just angry about it. So it tends to not be an accurate review. But yeah, there was some that were like 3s and 4s, and like there was one that basically pinned. They kind of said what some people have mentioned about it, that the look and feel of the episode was so California and not Vancouver, and that took away from the feel of the episode. They felt like it was really sentimental, like overly sentimental, where X-Files has never been that way before.
Mm-hmm.
But my counterpoint to that would be, we've never had the closure of a mystery before. So that's why we've not had the sentimentality. If you ask me, like, it's never had this time to finally tell the end of a story.
Yeah.
If they did this in series 3, would they be saying the same thing? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm
looking forward to hearing what everyone listening thinks, because I can definitely see why it would be polarizing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Whenever you give somebody the end of a story, you get the gamut of people who absolutely loved it 10 out of 10 and people who absolutely hated it. So it's like as giant Lost fans, we can vouch for a polarizing ending. Do you know what though? Like, I'm going to defend I mean, we've probably done it a lot. I'm defending the ending of Lost. I'd rather a polarizing ending that people are still talking about for, you know, where they love it or hate it, rather than an ending that's wrapped up and was like, oh, that was great, and then people aren't discussing about it because everyone's consensus is it's good. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to talk about there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to an extent. I feel like it's interesting because you've got a lot of different comparisons here. I think universally, Breaking Bad had a really good ending that people soured on over time, which is very interesting. And that's sort of like, I think it's just because you're caught up in the storyline and then it just doesn't feel as good. Lost has universally been like
divisive
right from the start, and not necessarily because it was good or bad, but because it didn't end the way people expected, or people didn't understand it, or, you know, any one of those things. And then we spoke about Game of Thrones before. Game of Thrones almost was the opposite of Lost, in the sense of Game of Thrones ending felt very fan servicey. Like, it felt like they really honed in on what the fans, what they thought the fans wanted to see, rather than where the plot was taking them. And that didn't go well either. So, like, I think Lost was divisive because people didn't get the answer they expected. But then it's not necessarily better to get the answer that you expect either, because then people are like, well, what's the mystery? It's always going to cause... You can't please everyone, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Basically, I think it's very rare where you get a an ending that pleases everybody. Like, just because people build up this expectation, especially like weekly TV and stuff like that. It's one of the benefits to binge TVs, I guess. Binge TV shows is people don't have this time to build up expectation, so they're just like
it's all one story, and it's very interesting because there's so many pros and cons to binge TV versus weekly episodic content. You're seeing that with the MCU now on the Disney Plus shows, where a lot of I'm loving them, but a lot of the TV shows are sort of falling flat for a lot of people, but it's because it's weekly and people are expecting a lot more from the shows and building up to be a lot more. Stranger Things, you saw the same thing this last season where they had a break, and I think the idea of the break was obviously to build up sort of like this sensation of it. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it because I know you haven't seen it for one, but the idea was to let people build up their excitement for the last part. But that is a double-edged sword because it works and there's a fever around it, but also you've got people who are expecting like
everything,
ridiculous stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people build it up in the head. I guess I come from the old school of I just enjoy weekly telly because it lets you talk. It lets you talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas like with binge, when it's bingeable, you kind of have to just wait until somebody's watched it all before, because you don't want to spoil things. And then there's sometimes where it's like, oh, I haven't got round to it yet, and you just never end up talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, Whereas with but again, that's me being old school. I understand there's a lot of people out there who, one of Tasha's mates has literally waited for all of the episodes of Always Murders in the Building to come out. Only Murders in the Building, sorry, get the name of it right. Would not watch a single episode as it was coming out, and we kept saying how good it was. Oh, this series is really good, but she's like, no, I want to watch it all in one go. It's like, there's some people that really like.
I completely get that because there's like the last part of Stranger Things was 3 hour-and-a-half episodes or something along them lines. So it was basically like a full season binge, and we watched them all in one night, and it was a blast. So I get it. I like both ways, to be honest, for different reasons.
Stop segment.
Welcome to Dan's Twitter Corner.
Stop segment.
Kathy's been in touch about last week's episode, Sign on Sight. Should I love your insight about Mulder in Sign on Sight being the kind of FBI agent he'd wanted, to see when Samantha was abducted. I never thought of it in those terms before, but it makes so much sense. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on closure. One thing I took away from this, thank you very much for getting in touch. One thing I took away from this tweet is, I think this is, I wasn't expecting, especially going into Sign on Sight, how important these two episodes could be. And like after the fact, they now seem like quite a pivotal moment in the show as a whole.
That's the thing. Yeah, going into it, you don't really know what's going to be a pivotal, like what's it episode? Mythology episode. Like the only indication I get is when I if I'm taking notes and I'm like, who wrote it? And it's like Chris Carter, and I'm like, oh, okay. Is this an important episode? Do you know what I mean? Like, up until that point, it's literally, it's just another monster of the week. Probably it's coming. You know, you're not prepared. Yeah. So yeah, when you get this big story episode, it's like, oh, this is a big deal. So yeah, it didn't really have the fanfare, I guess, that maybe it did deserve.
Ray got in touch, said thanks for another fun episode. You asked what David's been up to. He's been very busy. His fans are having a hard time catching up. He's been doing his 5th book tour, dropped his 3rd album, my God, did several movies, The Bubble, which is the one I was talking to you about last week, and The Chair on Netflix. You guys got to check out The Chair. It's a Sandra Oh's TV limited series on Netflix. David's only in one episode as a guest, but the show is so good, so smart, and hilarious. I love getting TV suggestions, so definitely keep sending those in. Sandra Oh, I'm just going to double check. Yeah, she's the one from Killing Eve.
Yeah, Killing Eve. Yeah, I was going to say that.
She's also in a medical show, and I want to say Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't sure because I've never seen it. But
the only episode of Grey's Anatomy I've ever seen is where somebody's got a bomb in them or something like that. I was like, whoa, this is outside of my comfort zone of casualty.
One Wow, I had no idea how busy David Duchovny been. His 5th book.
I know,
Is he
5 books, man. That's crazy.
What is he, like a novelist? I'm guessing.
I've not a clue. Like, you can't write 5 autobiographies, can you?
I'm guessing not. But I do apologise if you can hear me typing away David Duchovny books.
Then again, saying that, I'm pretty sure Chris Jericho, the wrestler, has got about 3 autobiographies.
Yeah.
He just writes one every year.
This looks like it just looks like just fiction, which is interesting.
Okay, cool.
I'd like to read some of this. One of them looks like a baseball themed one, which is very on point for cover. We're gonna have to check some of this stuff out when we've got more time. This is definitely content for after we finish this season for sure. After we finish like the show for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Last one, last tweet I'll read out. Jen Shep got in touch. This podcast had everything. I'm guessing it's talking about the last week's episode. Surprise best man announcements. Covo sad cry love. Lost alarms. At least 2 inadvertent poor taste jokes from Luke. I rate Sign Unzite 8 out of 10, and your podcast episode about Sign Unzite 10 out of 10. Bless. So thank you very much. That's I love that. That's great.
I like the review of it there. I saw this tweet earlier, replied to it. The first out of Days joke, I know exactly which one you're talking about, and Check's going to test. After we came off the air, I was like, was that too far? I was like, is that okay? Like, was that an okay joke? I was so panicked and worried. I was like, oh, God.
This is a little peek behind the curtain, and then it's you that makes all these lewd jokes. You've literally been laughing about saying the word titillated or whatever it was.
I did not.
You did. And then we come off air, and he's like, oh, should I? And I'm like, put it in. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
The devil on my shoulder there. But yeah. So I was like that close to cutting it out. But it was also part of a conversation. I was like, I don't want to lose the conversation that we're having. But I also uncomfortable. I'm like, is this like okay? But anyway, the second joke, I have no idea what they're referring to. Could be anything. Please let me know, because
this is why I am so on the train for shipping Mulder and Fowley. Because if it wasn't for me shipping Mulder and Fowley, all the heat would be on you.
Yeah.
And as a good friend, as a good podcast co-host, I'm taking that heat away from you. I can take it. Just everyone, just pour your hate onto me. Leave poor Luke alone. That's what I say. That's what I say. I stand by that. Them two are the perfect couple for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just glad that you have bad opinions.
Thank you very much for everyone getting in touch. We got loads more. We don't have time to read them all out, but we do try and reply to them all. Get in touch with us about anything about this week's episode, or any previous episodes, or even ones that are coming up. Just search for us on Twitter at Most Unwanted Pod. And then was one other thing we needed to discuss before we go. This is a long episode. So I am going away for a month to America. Now we wasn't quite sure how we're going to sort this out, because it does kind of leave us like isolated on episode 16, 17, where we couldn't. Basically, like we wouldn't be able to record shows, obviously, when I'm away.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like I'll be in a hotel where I could possibly. I'll be on the road. So we was going to have to take a break right towards the end of the season, and then I think off air, both of us discussed that this kind of is a perfect point to have a mid-season break. I know it's we don't really want to be taking mid-season breaks, but this is a one-off. It's basically all I'm saying.
Yeah, we're not going to do mid-season breaks every season. It just so happened that you're on
I can't afford month-long road trips every year. Don't worry about that.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's just one of those where it makes sense, really. This feels like a good episode to sort of end it on. We're just a peek behind the curtain. We're going to carry on recording before you go away. Yeah. So we're going to have episodes ready for when we come back,
because I'm not leaving next month, but we just didn't want to leave the gap right before the end of the season. So if
Yeah.
we take a gap now, me and you can keep going, keep recording episodes. But then as we get towards me going away, we'll have a bank of episodes that we can release weekly, and you'll still get it. We might do like little mini. We've talked about maybe doing mini episodes in between if we can sort something out, or if we get some like tweets, because obviously the tweets will be a little bit out of date by the time, because we won't be able to put them in. But we can sort that out, and we'll try and get bits and bobs out. But just wants to let you know that's what's going to happen. So you won't hear from us for a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, and then we'll be back with season 12. Season 12. Yeah, we're going to skip.
We're going to skip to a season that doesn't exist yet.
Doesn't exist.
Actually, this is where we're dropping an even bigger spoiler. We've got the screeners for season 12.
That's why I'm going to America. I'm going straight to LA. They won't let me fly in. They're blocking me. So I've got to fly into Chicago, drive to LA, pick the screeners up. And you know what? I shouldn't. No, I'm going to, but I shouldn't say this. I've got a little sneak peek into what happens in season 12. Mulder marries Fowley. So you're not going to want to miss this. This is a great season of television.
He resurrects her using necromantic magic that he's learned.
Hashtag, we can't wait for season 12 of the X-Files. It's a big hashtag. Get it in the comments.
But yeah, we will be back in a few weeks' time. We're looking at X-Cops when we come back, which I am so looking forward to. To leave you on this sort of cliffhanger for our 4-week break, this episode is shot in the style of an episode of Cops.
Beautiful. I cannot wait for that. So there you go. There's something to look forward to. Until then, we will see you in a couple of weeks. And yeah, get in touch with us. Let us know what you thought of all the people